TV, the Town of Cary's government access channel.
Call to order the October 24th meeting of the Cary Town Council. And at this time, I'll recognize Councilmember Friends for our ceremonial opening.
Thank you, Mayor. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's been a request from the applicant to remove public hearing 19 REZ08, which is the Davis Drive Plan Development District, from this agenda. The item will return to council at a future meeting. Is there a motion to adopt the amended agenda?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. If there is anyone in the audience who wishes to speak at that public hearing, you can still speak this evening at Public Speaks Out. All right, we'll move to reports, recognitions, and presentations. And our first and only item for the recognitions, reports, and presentation is the bond referendum update. And we'll call on the Chief Financial Officer, Karen Mills, who will present this item. And there's no action needed from the council.
Good evening, Council. Congratulations on a successful bond referendum. Your leadership was impactful and helped our citizens understand how important this referendum is on our ability to deliver on the vision of the Imagine Cary Community Plan. As you know, this referendum passed with incredible support. And as with many other democratic processes, there are still steps ahead of us. In fact, some of these steps have already been taken by both the Wake and the Chatham County. They certified the results of the election on October 14th. And legal documents are being prepared now so that you can take your next steps on November 21st. After that, staff will advertise a public notice, and following 30-day notice period, the results will become officially certified. However, staff is not waiting until late December to begin work. Staff began to evaluate potential project timelines on November the 9th, considering all these relevant factors. Council will play a fundamental role in the project prioritization, and with your decisions, we'll bring you recommendations to appropriate funds to get projects moving. Those recommendations will come at different times over the 7 to 10 year life of the referendum authority through regular processes such as staff reports, quarterly financial updates, and our annual capital budget process. Recall that we discussed with you that once you authorize a project, the path to completion for projects will vary. Different types of projects follow a variety of paths. For example, an investment in land can create opportunities that lead to preliminary design. Some projects might begin with community outreach. Ultimately, we'll take care of these and other technical tasks, such as permitting and bidding, and then we'll get to the most exciting part, the construction of projects that will keep Cary. So again, congratulations on the success of the referendum, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Mills. Questions from Ms. Mills?
No.
Thank you. We're very excited that we're able to move forward on so many projects. So,
And
thank
we
you.
should probably take a moment to thank all the citizens that
Yeah.
voted and for keeping their confidence in their local government and the incredible staff work that was done to make sure that all of our citizens had the information they needed. Whether they supported it or not, I think you all did a fantastic job getting all the information out there in a variety of ways, and I think the public answered that call with the positive confidence that they have in government. So thank you.
Thank you. Full team effort.
It's my understanding that was the largest margin of victory of all the bonds ever. I'm not,
It was
Ever in
incredible
Cary's history
support.
or ever in the world?
no. No, just back to the early 90s, our first one. So
In
all of our
modern
bonds,
history,
I
yes,
think,
in
was
modern
better.
history.
I think this is the most resounding feedback that we've received, not just for the parks, but transportation.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
We now move to our third item on the agenda, Public Speaks Out. We've included instructions for speaking at Public Speaks Out on the printed agenda. And if you'd like to speak, I would ask that you take a seat in the rows to my right that are shown as reserved and follow the instructions on the printed agenda. Public Speaks Out speakers have 3 minutes each for their comments, and speakers may speak on any topic as long as it's not a public hearing. The 3-minute time limit will be enforced, not to be rude, but to be fair to all of our speakers. There is a timer on the podium, and when that green light turns yellow, that means you have 30 seconds remaining. And when the yellow light turns into a flashing red light, that's the moment I will interrupt you. Again, not trying to be rude, but trying to be fair. And to help have an efficient Public Speaks Out, I would ask that if you're here with a group, have a spokesperson speak on behalf of the group to reduce repetitive comments. And if you would like to speak next, I would ask that you stand over by the stairway so that we know that there's another speaker and that we could be more efficient since there is a 1-hour time limit for Public Speaks Out. I thank everyone in the audience for understanding that this is a business meeting. Please do not applaud, make remarks from your seats, or anything else that may distract from this meeting. So now is the time for Public Speaks Out, and I would invite our first speaker forward. Anyone to speak at Public Speaks Out?
Good. Hi, Joe Milazzo, live at 307 Tibbetts Rock Drive in Cary. I was here just to say two things. One is to thank the council and the staff for the work on the referendum. I think it's good for the future of our community. And the other thing I want to mention is an item on the agenda, not public hearing, but for transit improvements. I was here 9 months ago to the day when this was first presented back in January. I want to compliment Kelly Blasey and all the members of the team for continued work on that. I spoke in favor of it then. Nothing's changed now. We think it's important for the community to be looking at improved transit and transportation options. I know I do, my family does. We use the system when we can, and I think more improvements and more efficiencies will allow more people to use it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Milazzo.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please. Anyone else for Public Speaks Out?
Hi, my name is Slo Kendall. I'm a concerned resident and, like a lot of people in Cary, a relocated Yankee. Anyway, I wanted to comment about the Chatham Square development. I want to make a plea for responsible development. I'm originally from New York, and there's been a lot of gentrification there, and a lot of times the effect is that the cultural richness of an area really suffers because businesses that have been there for a long time get priced out. A lot of times they get replaced with chain stores, and the area becomes, a lot less inviting. And, I've heard that Taipei 101 is one of the best, most authentic Chinese restaurants for miles around. I haven't actually gotten there myself, but I've got coworkers who live in Durham and in Greensboro who say that they'll drive all the way to Cary just to eat there. I was also at a birthday party up in Wake Forest about a month ago, a kid's birthday party, where the piñata came from the Mexican supermarket. And, I just think it's important to maintain, these businesses and institutions that have been here for a while and made Cary as desirable a place as it is. That's basically all I wanted to say. You know, the developers, I understand, are going to spend a lot of money on this development, and they have. It makes sense that they're going to want to like raise the rents and you know, get a return on their investment. But I do think that the you know, the cultural richness that some of these businesses provide is valuable, even if it doesn't translate to being able to pay the higher rents. So I hope that I think it's called Chatham Street. I hope the developers can come to some kind of agreement with the businesses to, you know, maintain the character that exists there today. That's about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker for Public Speaks Out. Anyone else for Public Speaks Out?
Good evening. My name is Pablo Leah, and I was here to attend the hearing for the Davis Drive planned development district thing, but I guess that has been taken off the meeting today. Am I right?
Yeah.
The public
Okay.
hearing, but you can still speak.
I understand that. So, okay. So this is all new to me, and the first time when I came in, everybody stood up, took the oath of allegiance, and one of the things was that we want to be fair to everybody, and somehow I feel that this development is not fair to us. The reason being that I have been in the area for 10 years, and I notice when I come down to Cary downtown, I feel all the development is happening in this area. And there is absolutely zero development in the area which I come from. My taxpayer money is coming to this council and this whole place, but I don't feel served by this council. So I would appreciate if the town council thinks before making any such applications come in front of it, that any decision that they make is fair for all the people. Lots of money has been raised through the bonds. I understand that town needs to be developed, but as a citizen of this area, I'm a citizen in Cary and Morrisville both. I don't feel belonging here. So that's just my 2 cents. And when would the next thing happen on this? I would be interested to know about that.
It's not scheduled?
Yes, but whenever it happens. And the other thing I wanted to make here is that not many people could come. But if people are going to come here and then things are changed, there should be a mechanism that by which people are notified, not just like at the town thing that, okay, it's been canceled. Because just coming from my place to this place, it took me 30 minutes, and I had to take off from my work. I work Western time zone. I mean, my client is at West Coast. I had to leave that work and come just for this meeting. So those were some of the thoughts I had. Thank you for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you do me a favor and contact me, because I think you're confused about a few things. We're not developers. We don't develop.
I understand.
And
but
I can help you, okay?
Sure.
Contact me.
Sure.
Thank
I
you.
will. If I can.
Anyone else to speak at Public Speaks Out? And if you'd like to speak at Public Speaks Out after this speaker, I would ask that you take a stance on the stairway so that we know that there are additional speakers, and it will help things move along a little bit faster.
Dear Honorable Council members, my name is Lugash Kumar. I live in 4003 Robious Court, Cary. I've been a resident in Cary since 2016, and I've been like a resident in North Carolina since 2013. I'm here to kind of talk about, and I do not support the 19 Res 01 Twyla Road South PDD. We already kind of.
That's a public hearing.
Public hearing.
So what I would like you to do is wait until that public hearing comes up, and I'll call on you first.
Okay.
And it's to your advantage because you get 2 more minutes to speak.
Thank you.
How's that sound?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kumar. Anyone else to speak at Public Speaks Out?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ibrahim Sakraya. I live at 109 Drakeshire Court. I am immediate neighbor behind the Davis Drive Sports Complex. Okay, this is to bring. I am trying to bring to your attention some of the issues for the Davis Drive development issues. Yeah, as it stands, I mentioned that I am the immediate neighbor. I am affecting so many issues like stormwater, sound pollution, garbage collection is because of the garbage collection is in the early morning, so it is a pounding sound in the morning, so that is a big issue. And so my concerns are whether in the new development with the stormwater will be managed properly, the buffer will be maintained, enough buffer will be maintained, and light pollution will be there or not, and the sound, especially the sound, the garbage collection should be in the daytime, something like that. Okay. Also, I'd like to know whether there will be a fencing between the two developments. Okay, because I understand that it is mixed use development. Okay, it is a residential, commercial, and public gathering. So we prefer to have our suggestion is that we should have good separation and all. Okay, that's all I want to bring to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hey, Grant Berry, 306 Keener Street. Firstly, may I congratulate you on a wonderful job you're doing on downtown and the progress you're making. Fantastic. A couple of things that came to mind for me personally. I can kind of see in the next 12 months we're going to have serious traffic problems. And have the council contemplated introducing a one-way system going up Academy, down Walker for future, maybe over the next 12 months? I think it might help in rush hour when you've got all the traffic coming on Harrison. And I don't know if you've actually looked at those aspects that might come across. And then with the partnership with the development and the parking deck, how many parking spots have been allocated to that development? Do you know offhand?
I don't think we're allowed to answer your questions now, but we can.
If you contact us,
we can talk to staff.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Well,
We
once
can
again,
email
thanks.
you
You're
if you need your
doing a
information.
great job downtown.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
We'll get a hold of them.
Hello, my name is Prateek Thoreau. I live in the area between Davis Drive and McCrimmon, and it's come to my notice that you guys are, that the developers are building in a 21-acre lot, and they're trying to build up to 375 residential units. Just a quick math to figure out what they're actually asking for. 375 residential units, 21 acres. At least half of that will be used for roads or trees and playground use. You can't have that much to build an actual home, right? So only 10 acres will be used to build 375 residential units. 10 acres around 40,000 square feet. So if you were to do the math, 375 residential units, you need at least some space to have a home. You can't actually build up that much. And you guys, at least in the page that I received, it says that it could also be used for commercial and residential development. That will increase the amount of traffic. And I cross the street to go to my activities, after school activities. I find it very dangerous trying to cross the street. I have to wait at least 5 minutes just for cars to stop, and it does say pedestrian crossing, but nobody actually stops. So I would really hope for, as a resident of Cary and Morrisville, that you guys do something to this attention, because I love living here, and it's like a great opportunity, but I don't really see anything happening to support like where I live, and I don't see anything happening to benefit me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving the opportunity for us to speak today, and even opening the channel to have the public speak at least, even though we withdraw on the development issue. So I'm not going to touch that point because a couple of my resident neighbors already touched that point.
Could you give us your name for the record, please?
Sure. My name is Subaru D.
Thank you.
And I've been very actively involving the Morrisville community area, and as well as I was the resident. My kids grown up and in the Carpenter area. It's as a Cary citizen, we paid the tax, and now we are paying to the Morrisville also. So we contributed our taxes the last 15 years. But it's not fair that our kids cannot have the normal life to come from the school and have the after-school environment. It is a so much concentrated area now. Even if I got couple of times from my employer saying that notice, you are coming late. I had to blame that myself. My town doesn't have enough infrastructure. Because the moment I cross from the Wexford to the Cary, it's a congestion. I cannot go within the time. I cannot attend to my school kids programs. My kids cannot even cross a road. So as we are as citizens, I'm not only pointing you, we all need to come together and review that concentrated area, how potentially it is dangerous now. Now we have Democratic and Republican fighting, we want to protect the next generation resources, Amstead Park, green area. But now there is a proposal, we want to reduce the greenery buffer area, current resident directly impacted. We are not even concerned about the current residents, now we are concerned about the future residents. So right now we are the taxpayers. How we should have minimum courtesy when they are putting the applications. How can you reduce the buffer? There is a tree area. We need to protect that. As all we are humans, we need first protect our environment. And there is again, please come together and review that area, set up the special investigation why this Davis Drive and McCrimmon and Carpenter area are so much concentrated right now. There is a lot of housewives involved in the accidents. I can have the history, complete history. I can pull that McCrimmon and Davis Drive intersection, how potentially the car flipped down, even police, traffic police incidents, also their personal cars also involved in the accidents. So this is as a common citizen, I'm sharing my experience, and it's a voice of all our town family, mothers. So we because I've been in the HOA director and as well as in the town actively participating, I hear a lot of voice. They're not able to attend.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you at this time. Your time has expired.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope I convey.
If you have additional comments, if you'd like to put them in writing and get them to our town clerk, she'll make sure that we read them.
That's all good enough. Thank you very much. I appreciate if you guys can conduct a private investigation in that area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please. Anyone else for Public Speaks Out? We'll close Public Speaks Out, and we will move to consent agenda items, which is item 4 on your agenda. For the benefit of the people watching our meeting on TV, I'm going to take a moment to review our consent agenda items. Please keep in mind that one vote approves all consent agenda items. On the consent agenda, we have minutes. We have the clarification of advisory volunteer appointments. We have call for a public hearing for 19A14 Kathy A. S. McLam trustee annexation. We have an interlocal agreement for bus mobile ticketing. We have the grant funding adjustments for Carpenter Fire Station road widening, White Oak Creek Greenway, MacArthur Park segment, and Higgins Greenway. Would council members like any of these items pulled for discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously, and we now move to public hearings. Same rules apply for public hearings that applied for public speaks out, with one exception. Speakers now have 5 minutes for their comments instead of 3. Our first public hearing is 19 REZ01 Twyla Road South PDD. Principal Planner Katie Dry will introduce the item. Council will not take action on this rezoning tonight, but it will be referred to our Planning and Zoning Board for their review and recommendation at a later date. Ms. Dry.
Good evening, Council. This is a request to rezone 20.03 acres south of Morrisville Parkway at the intersection of Twyla Road. South PDD, also known as Twyla Village PDD, is located between Morrisville Parkway and Green Hope School Road. South change, which is currently under construction. Friars Gate subdivision is adjacent and to the east. The Morrisville Parkway was recently completed across NC 540 and may open as soon as within the next month. The NC 540 interchange is still currently under construction, and it's expected to be open by early 2020. Once open, the interchange at Morrisville Parkway will be the only interchange between Highway 55, which is 2.3 miles to the north, and Green Level West Road, which is 1.8 miles to the south. The current zoning on the property is R40, and it's within the Watershed Protection Overlay District, and the applicant is requesting to rezone to PDD minor. The Watershed Protection Overlay District will remain. This PDD proposes 3 subdistricts. The C1 district would allow up to 12,500 square feet of commercial uses and 17,000 square feet of office uses. The RMF1 subdistrict would allow up to 104 multifamily units, and the R1 subdistrict would allow up to 95 units. The applicant has proposed a condition that all streets within the residential subdistricts will be dedicated as public streets, and alleys may remain in private ownership. This is a list of all the commercial uses that are typically permitted by right or as a special use in the general commercial zoning district. This PDD would limit the uses to the uses shown here within the C1 subdistrict. This would include veterinary hospital and office with and without indoor kennel, a bank with and without a drive-through, a restaurant with both indoor and outdoor operation, office, business or professional, wellness center, commercial indoor recreational facility, shopping center, postal center, personal service establishment, and retail store. Portions of the site may be impacted by stream buffers. No wetlands or floodplains appear to be present on the site, but field determination of those features would be required at the time of development plan review. A future street side trail will be located on the north side of Morrisville Parkway. Green Hope School Road is a future 3-lane thoroughfare, and Morrisville Parkway will be a future 4-lane median divided street. A preliminary analysis of the request against the Imagine Cary Community Plan finds that several policies from various chapters of the plan apply. The Future Growth Framework map identifies the site as being within a commercial center. These are typically defined as having a shopping center that are intended to serve nearby residential neighborhoods. This request proposes a maximum of 29,500 square feet of non-residential uses, with only 12,500 square feet for commercial uses. No minimums or phasing are proposed. By area, approximately 11% of this project is designated for non-residential uses. When we look at the commercial center as a whole, it includes the recently approved Twyla North Planned Development District, the Lowe's at Greystone Shopping Center, which will be anchored by a grocery store. Altogether, at full build-out, the 3 development proposals within the commercial center could build between 77,000 to 141,000 square feet of commercial and office space. This would also include a hotel and up to 594 residential units. The project proposes a mix of townhouses and multifamily units. This would help contribute to the housing mix in the area by providing a less common housing type. Furthermore, the applicant has provided design conditions on the multifamily units to differentiate them from the typical garden-style apartment. They've limited the number of units per building. They've also required some of the units to be rear-loaded, and they're also providing accessible rooftop areas. The development is also within an emerging neighborhood where a number of forthcoming development projects are in the process. The small-scale commercial and office uses proposed are in close proximity to a new interchange. This could provide a unique opportunity for new or expanding firms. On the other hand, the limited amount of non-residential space proposed also lacks minimums or phasing. This could limit the ability of the project to fully meet the work policy. The applicable shop policy specifies that commercial uses should be focused in commercial centers, and the proposed development is primarily residential, so it may not fully comply with this policy. A traffic study evaluated 15 intersections within a mile of the site. This is per the Town of Cary's LDO requirements. As a result of the projected site generated by this project, a number of recommended traffic improvements were identified. The applicant is committed to several of these. This includes a signal warrant analysis at build-out at Morrisville Parkway and Highcroft Drive, and the installation of a signal if warranted. A left turn lane, or a turn lane for the northbound approach at Green Level Church Road and Green Hope School Road. This is a partial improvement as a recommended signal warrant analysis has not been offered. An improvement at the site access on Green Hope School Road. This would include an exclusive left turn into the site. Also improvements at Kempthorne Road and at Morrisville Parkway at the access to the site. 19 people attended the neighborhood meeting in March. Questions and concerns included the type and appearance of the proposed residential units, buffers against the Friars Gate neighborhood, and traffic. To date, staff has not received any phone calls or emails. However, one concerned citizen did speak to staff when they were posting the site, expressing concerns about traffic and the timing of this request with the Twyla North rezoning that was recently approved. Notice of the proposed rezoning was mailed to property owners within 800 feet of the site. This exceeds the minimum notice requirements mandated by state law and the Town of Cary's Land Development Ordinance. The applicant's representative is here to share comments, and following that in the public hearing, staff is available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Try. This time I would like to invite the applicant forward for their applicable comments.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. My name is Glenda Top with Glenda S. Top and Associates. I'm here tonight representing the property owners on the south side of Twyla Road. The request is to rezone approximately 20 acres to a minor plan development district, and the uses include residential, commercial, office, and open space uses. The PDD proposes a maximum of 95 townhomes, maximum 104 multifamily units. There is also a maximum of 12,500 square feet of commercial and a maximum of 17,000 square feet of office, which includes medical. Developments requesting planned development district are expected to offer innovative design as part of the rezoning. This is clearly being done with this request. Within the RMF1 district, all units will be rear-loaded from an alley. Buildings will be limited to a maximum of 16 units. All upper floor units in the multifamily portion of the project will have rooftop accessible amenity spaces, and these commitments help to differentiate the proposed multifamily units from your typical garden apartments. Within the R1 townhome district, the intent is for all units to be rear-loaded from an alley, with the exception of up to 20% are allowed to have front-loaded, and this is due to possible planning and engineering constraints if the project is approved during the final construction part of the plan. A minimum of 35% of these units within the district will have a rooftop amenity also. The vision for this proposed rezoning and the product is a village-style design and density surrounding small neighborhood services. Our vision for the street design and commitments to alley product creates a streetscape which enhances the community feel throughout. The density and particular alley product type offers the provision of several park open space opportunities allowed by the vertical density. Those open spaces are connected by sidewalks along the streetscape for a pedestrian experience that is enhanced by less interaction with cars at the front door. This enhanced visual design is what we want people to see as they arrive from NC 540 and the Morrisville Parkway interchange. By providing the above conditions that I mentioned, we believe this vision will be met. Twyla Road, or Twyla Village PDD, is designated as a commercial center on the town's future growth work plan. It's important to note that no two commercial center designations are alike, and they must each be evaluated on their own merits. Existing topography and access impact the proposed development. The current grade of Morrisville Parkway is nearly 20 feet below the property's edge. Access from Morrisville Parkway is not guaranteed and must be approved by NCDOT in the town of Cary. And of course, without access from Morrisville Parkway, the commercial and office portion of the subject property will be difficult to develop. The Cary Community Plan talks about the different components and what's required within a commercial center. And one of the things is commercial centers having between 5 and 10 acres with a supermarket or similar anchor tenant. It's important to look at the entire commercial center and not just one quadrant when determining if the criteria of a commercial center has been met. Looking at the commercial center as a whole, if Twyla Village is approved, there will be a total of approximately 160 square feet of retail office plus a hotel approved at this interchange. This includes the Lowe's Retail Center that's approved for 72,000 square feet of commercial and includes a supermarket. When looking at the commercial center, it's in its totality, the criteria for a commercial center has been met, thus complying with the future growth framework map. Just briefly touching on the policies within the Cary Community Plan, which the proposed rezoning complies with. The first one is the Live chapter. The proposed development includes both townhomes and multifamily units in an area right now that is predominantly single family. I want to note that the size of the units will vary between 1,400 square feet to 2,500 square feet, and it is our hope that the smaller units will allow people such as teachers, young adults, seniors, and other residents to find a place to live in this prime location in Cary. This part is also ready for redevelopment. The commercial and office uses are planned along Morrisville Parkway. The proposed multifamily units are closest to NC 540, and the townhomes are adjacent to existing townhomes. The type of development being proposed has been by council in 2012. The commercial and office uses proposed in proximity to a mix of residential uses at a major interchange will provide the opportunity for professional and medical offices as well as neighborhood services and retail, which complies with the work chapter. The Engage chapter deals with the Parks and Recreation and Cultural Arts plan. There are no plans for a park or greenway here, but it is important to note that a minimum of 12,000 square feet of community gathering space is being proposed, and this is 3 times the LDO requirement. The gathering spaces are distributed throughout the development, and this is shown on the master plan for the project. And lastly, we do comply with the SHAPE chapter. As I've stated, we believe that we comply with the future growth framework map for commercial centers. This chapter encourages geographic distribution of commercial centers throughout the town in order to accommodate the daily shopping and service needs of the residents and workers. And when you take into account all the commercial development that is either planned or proposed, we feel that this commercial center will serve the needs of the surrounding residents. SHAPE chapter also encourages a mix of development. In this project, we have commercial, office, a mix of housing types, and these housing types provide pedestrian circulation within the different districts such that the residents will have access to commercial areas by foot. Providing appropriate transitions between uses is another important policy. Just briefly, the proposed multifamily and non-residential uses are in the northwestern corner, closest to the Morrisville Parkway and the future interchange, and the townhouse portion is adjacent to existing townhomes. The subject property was designated on Cary's land use plan in 2012 as mixed use due to the proximity of Twyla Road and the future intersection of NC 540 and Morrisville Parkway. When Cary adopted the Cary Community Plan, the designation chosen was Commercial Center. This designation reflected the designation that was on Cary's old land use plan. In conclusion, the interchange is close to being complete. Given the location of the subject property, the adjacent and nearby residents, along with the combination of proposed and approved commercial and office uses, the size, scale, and percentage breakdown of the non-residential and residential uses being proposed complies with the Cary Community Plan. The plan uses are both consistent with the commercial center designation and permit sensitive treatment of the site while furthering the goals and policies of the Cary Community Plan. The time is now to rezone the property. Thank you.
Thank you. Now's the time for the public hearing, 19 REZ01 Twyla Road South PDD. And before I call speakers at large, I'd like to invite back Mr. Kumar so that he can provide his comments. And for the record, if you would state your name again.
Honorable Council members.
Thank you.
My name is Lugash Kumar. So there's already like a rezone approved on the Twyla North for more than 400 families, houses, and offices and hotel spaces. So it's gonna kind of create a lot of congestion already. And like personally, like we have seen a lot of wildlife behind our backyard. For example, deers, hummingbirds, and all of this. I think like when those areas are taken away, all those wildlife are kind of moved towards the south region. So I think like Cary has its own characterism of kind of peacefulness and more of nature and green space. When we kind of signed up for this house, we kind of saw the way Cary was with a lot of greenery and peacefulness and like congestionless. But with a lot of these improvements and kind of a lot of constructions, I feel like it's going to kind of increase the noise pollution and congestion. And like every day I kind of leave to office and I've kind of seen myself taking, initially it was 10 minutes to reach to office, and now it has kind of reached to 20 minutes. With more and more, I don't know like how it's going to kind of go. And also like there are a lot of kids in this zone. Like there's a lot of kids who kind of come out in the street and take the buses. So I feel like if those buses are there at the 8 o'clock or the peak time, then it's going to kind of create more and more congestion. So I do not support this Twyla Board PDD South. Thank you for the opportunity, council members.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Next speaker, please.
Hello, Mayor, Council. My name is Twyla Hilliard Finler, and I'm here on behalf of my mom, Annie Ruth Hilliard, who lives at 7216 Green Hope School Road. And I want to talk tonight about the rezoning for Twyla Village. But before I get started, I want to get one thing straight. Twyla Road was named after me, not vice versa. I didn't want y'all to think like, you know, my expectant parents were riding around trying to decide on a baby name. Oh, Maybe that'd be good for baby girl. One like that. So, I wanted to just give you a brief history on Twyla Road, the Hilliard Farm, and the surrounding area. My dad, Staley Hilliard, bought a 100-acre farm from his dad, Conley Hilliard, back in 1954. And 48 years ago, in 1971, he built Twyla Road. Can y'all hear me okay? And he just subdivided his farm into residential plots. And then over the next 15 years, he sold these plots and the owners built homes along Twyla Road. Put these on, I can't read. All the residences on the property, on my previous farm property of my dad's, are what is now known as Twyla North and Twyla South. My dad kept a 16-acre plot for our family, which he continued to farm until 1991. And he retained this portion of the land, to make sure that his family was taken care of in the future. I just know if he was alive today, he'd be so proud of all this, Sorry. It's become such a valuable piece. He saw a lot of changes in his life. He was raised on a farm himself, just about 1/8 of a mile down the road from the Twyla property. His dad, my grandfather, Conley Hilliard, also grew up in the area. So current day, we Hilliards can boast that we go back 5 generations just along the stretch of Green Level Road and Green Hope School Road. My brothers, who are here tonight, Craig and Todd, and I, we have such fond memories of growing up with a lot of Hilliard relatives close by, and despite all the hard farming labor, it was a great childhood. All of us went to Apex High School and have stayed connected to our community and our close friends, and we like to get together with those old friends and reminisce about our grassroots in the rural area. But it's not rural anymore. Times have changed, and change is good. Change is good. My mom, being 88 years old, has experienced the most of this change. She has embraced it because she's enjoyed the development that it's brought about to the area. She loves all the modern conveniences. When we were growing up, she used to always say, I would give my right arm to have a real grocery store out here in the country. And so you just can imagine how excited she is now when there's a Harris Teeter on every corner. She used to have to shop at the Piggly Wiggly. While she has embraced all of this development of convenience, the day-to-day process has been really hard on her. The construction, the noise, the grading, the digging, the down phone lines, neighbors walking through the yard all hours of the day. It's been a lot for an 88-year-old lady. And her health has really declined over the past 4 years. And so the time has come for her to go to an assisted living home. My brothers and I would love to see her live.
I'm so sorry. I have
to
interrupt you, but I would like to hear the rest of this story.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time and letting me share my story.
If you have it in writing, if you could get it to
There really
Johnson.
wasn't much else to say. Pass the zoning, please.
Thank you. Next speaker for this public hearing, please.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Todd Hilliard. I live at 102 Hilliard Lane. I'm a 53-year resident of the town of Cary and here to speak as an applicant and owner in support of the rezoning case for the Twyla Road South PDD. Just over 25 years ago, I purchased 3.5 acres of land from my mom where I was raised because I wanted to raise my family on the very land where I'd had so many fond childhood memories, like my dad farming the fields and us playing and working together as a family. At that time, Twyla Road subdivision was a peaceful, quiet, secluded area for my kids to play, ride bikes, see their friends and family. As time went on, growth took off in the West Cary area. Soon we were exposed to construction on all four sides. First, the south side came College Park Baptist Church, which has been an excellent neighbor, by the way. Next was the east side, was Friars Gate, and they also have been good neighbors as well. But then the construction shifted toward a 3-year-long I-540 triangle expressway expansion to the west. The rock blasting damaged structures on my land, as well as my brother's house, who is now across the interstate from me. He sustained foundation settling and cracking. I suddenly had minerals in my well water and had to install an expensive filter system in order to stay in my home. When Marshall Parkway was extended past the north of my house and interchange was built, I lost my property's legal road frontage. I lost reliable internet, reliable mail service, reliable access to and from my home and small business, reliable phone service, and even reliable emergency access. Even people who have been coming to my house for years get lost, not to mention the Amazon delivery people. I had to get a post office to help relieve some of the confusion for the mail carriers. Worst of all, where I'd spent all my younger years and raised my kids now feels like it's been splintered. I know you've heard many of these concerns from Twyla North residents, but this is my only opportunity to tell my story. Could you even picture having half of your neighborhood in Preston or McGregor Downs eliminated for a new interstate or interchange, and you'd be left to pick up the pieces with no way to sell your home quickly, and the value of your home depending only on the ideas of developers and town staff? You don't know if you should spend thousands of dollars on improvements or try to trust the process. This is a complicated, uncertain, worrisome, and financially concerning place to be, especially at my age. There are just a few examples of some of the inconveniences we have faced and continue to live with daily for the betterment of the town of Cary and access for the region. We're proud of all that Cary has become and understand some sacrifices are needed to continue this success, but we want to be a part of that. But we have sacrificed a lot, and we put much effort into picking the right builder and a good plan. So now we ask you to move this project forward so we can move on with our lives. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Lisa Wiggins, and I'm Todd Hilliard's neighbor. I live at 1000 Twyla Road. I am here to speak in support of the Twyla Village PPD and share my story. Did you ever drive down Twyla Road? Or better yet, Hilliard Lane, especially on a sunny afternoon? Those who have know the sense of delight it brought for so many years, with trees arching over a soft gravel road, rays of sun shining through and into the gentle sloping forest, and the feeling like you had left the cares of the world behind. It was a quiet, peaceful retreat right here in West Cary that seemed so different from every other place you might go. Our family moved to Twyla at the end of January 2009. We found a place for our 3 children to call home, as they attended and I taught at Cary Christian School. It was very close for us and not far from RTP, where my husband worked in the pharmaceutical industry. We greatly enjoyed our years of living there and tried to make the most of every moment we shared. After 2.5 years of living in our home, in August of 2011, we started a journey with our neighbors towards selling our little piece of solitude to a developer because the Morrisville Parkway extension and interchange plans with 540 were going to completely change our neighborhood. Though this was an unexpected event for us since we were the most recently added residents of Twyla, we approached the idea with interest and a bit of excitement. We attended neighborhood meetings about the interchange design, town council meetings during the land use designation change of 2012, and came together with all the other residents of Twyla to form an LLC to help with the sale. Time began to march slowly on with the marketing of our properties and completing the various tasks involved. We understood this could take a few years to reach closing, but we hoped it would be only a few. We never dreamed we would be in limbo for 9 years. Our simple way of life was disrupted in many ways. We were awakened at 7 a.m., including Sundays, every morning, to the rumble of construction equipment. People were on our property constantly, measuring, surveying, and gathering data. We lost internet access from cut cables. The mail carriers had trouble delivering mail and packages to our home. Our underground dog fence was compromised several times, and we even came home to a road closed sign with no clear access to our driveway. Necessary everyday home repairs like replacing our heating and air units, capping our chimney, or installing new kitchen counters were not done because we didn't want to sink money in a house that would soon be torn down. So our house felt like it was falling down around us as we waited and waited for the sale. In addition, the interchange and changes have created title issues that impact a simple sale of our home. Finally, for 8 years, we have been unable to sell our home to an individual, even if the need arose, because no one would want to live on an interchange or invest in the uncertainty. Yes, in fact, the need did arise for us to do so. In late 2015, my husband's corporate employer decided to relocate his job to Maryland. We were allowed to delay the move, but only until the fall of 2017. Unfortunately, at that time, we faced even more difficult circumstances when my husband suffered a stroke. Amazingly, he's recovered fully, returned to his job, and we were able to move to Maryland in July of 2018. So for over a year, we have been paying our North Carolina mortgage and apartment rent in Rockville, Maryland. We had to ask our son to move into our Twyla home to take care of it, and we lost out on close to $60,000 of relocation benefits because of the home sale delay. To that point, many times the requests or pleas that come before you are from larger landowners with great financial rewards at stake by your decision. For the majority of the landowners in Twyla North and South, including my family, this is not the case. We simply can't just sell our home and pay our debts and move to the next phase of life. We started this journey with interest and excitement, but over the long process, the interest has turned to discouragement. It is time for us to be able to move on. We had found something special, and it is gone, but now the team buying the property wants to build a new something special, and it is time. We hope that we will all soon see the results of the hard work and not have to feel that our lives are in limbo anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wiggins. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. J.W. Sharon. I'm here representing 2 of the property owners on the south side. They are property address 920 Twyla Road. That is Patricia Davenport, who is here to my right tonight, and 1004 John Weldon. These 2 properties originally existed along Twyla Road. Running north and south, you had lots on the west side and lots on the east side. With the condemnation for land to build the ramp as seen on your map tonight, all of the west side homes were taken out below this interchange. Not only that, it came across the road to the east side and impacted Ms. Davenport's property. In doing so, they only took a portion, but the portion they took was her well. And in doing so, it made it very complicated for her to decide whether to stay or not or reinvest. So they wouldn't take the house or the land, but they took the well. So she realized now that the quality of her life was going to be impacted. She chose to relocate. She now has a home that's uninhabited, deteriorating, and molding. Mr. Weldon was in a different situation where they wanted more of his land. They took his house, but left an acre. But the acre was directly adjacent to the ramp. And you could not convince the state to say, hey, take it. But we also know development regulations in Cary require a buffer. So if you take that acre and lay the buffer on it, what is he to do? So he's trapped along like Ms. Davenport. We are glad this developer has taken the time to work with everyone on the south side to include all for this request, because we now think that this plan as proposed tonight will fulfill everyone's need to move forward. On the planning side of things, I've looked at the plan overall, and I think as we looked at the Twyla Road North project, we evaluated a lot of the change in uses that are happening in the area, not only on this side but the other. And all of those uses combined probably makes this puzzle fit. Some of the things you hear all the time is traffic and density. But you've got a brand new intersection. Where else would you not consider to do that, to handle this type of a project? I do think it's a good quality fit to be a good neighbor next to a subdivision to the east. You're looking at similar product styles. It's a great product to be at this new interchange, and we feel that this is the best use for this site. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharon. Anyone else to speak at this public hearing? Anyone at all? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and open it up to council members for questions or comments.
I'll make a comment.
Sure.
In looking at, I think the intensity of the development is appropriate at an interchange. I think that's right. It would not be right for us to keep this wooded. I know everybody always wants woods to be next to their property. I mean, I certainly experienced that firsthand, and I'm sure others have too. But this intensity is correct. I think that it's going to be incumbent upon the developer to offer conditions to make sure that this creates a sense of place, that this is not just another intense development. I like the fact that you are offering 12,000 square feet for gathering place. I think 4,000, which is our standard, is woefully too little. So I think 12,000 is more appropriate. Can you offer any kind of conditions that are going to tell us about how that's going to be meaningful open space? Because when you have this many homes, you're going to have a lot of children that are going to need some place to go. And we don't want them just playing on the streets, especially when you have those streets feeding commercial and office. So we want to make sure, because people going to an office building aren't thinking children in the street. So we just need to make sure that the way that these buildings relate to each other is meaningful, and then the open space is useful and meaningful. So I will look forward to seeing what kind of conditions you can offer that give us that assurance. Anything that you can do to help us understand how you're going to make this a really great sense of place is going to be wonderful. So I appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Other comments or questions?
I just have one comment. I noticed that the veterinary indoor and outdoor were still in the list. And with that much residential, I'm a little bit concerned about having the outdoor right up to and next to that much residential. I know it could cause problems in the, down the road. So that was just, if it's not planned for, take it out, because since you already have removed a number of them. The other thing that just gives me pause, and I really am taking into consideration what all the speakers have said, is this is targeted at a commercial center, yet it's 90% residential. And of course, we have some commercial on the north side, and we have a lot of commercial over where the grocery is. I just would love to see, as it comes back, the total percentage of commercial, because I think of residential and multifamily as an incidental use in a commercial, not the 90% use of the commercial center. So that was the original target. I'm open to it, but it doesn't seem like a perfect fit. Not that perfect is the enemy of good, and I get that. I'm just open to that, but 90% seems like a lot.
And I wanted to say one thing I forgot to say, I'm sorry. In that list of restrictions on your commercial use, because this is woven into a residential community, I would prefer to see if you would be willing to offer some kind of condition that says no drive-through for your restaurants. Because I think, if in this kind of setting, I think it's better to have restaurants that are complementary to residential, not a vehicular drive-through kind of restaurant. Just my thought.
Mr. France?
Question for staff. The applicant mentioned rooftop amenities. Is that actually conditioned in the application at all?
Yes, that's correct. And some of the residential uses, they've added conditions that some of the rooftops would be accessible. So that would mean there would be some type of porch or accessible amenity area on top of the units.
So it's accessible, but it doesn't specifically say amenity.
It actually does say amenity.
Okay, good. That helps. Okay. I would agree with most of Ms. Robinson's comments. I'm not as passionate about the drive-throughs as you are. I like how they've situated the townhomes next to townhomes and kept the higher density apartments away from the townhomes and single family. For folks that, if traffic's your concern, residential project's going to generate a lot less traffic than, say, a commercial or an office user, at least at peak times. So I tend to look at the whole area holistically as far as commercial center or destination center. And I think when taken as a whole, there's an appropriate mix of uses. The topography on this site, when we considered Twyla North, one of the reasons I think we were sympathetic to the amount of residential there was the challenging topography. Does this site have similar challenges or no?
I can look into that moving forward, and
Okay.
we'll be able to have some information
Okay.
as it moves on.
It's clearly a lot less dense in regards to residential versus the north, but I would like to know that. That's really all my comments for right now. I'll echo Ms. Robinson regarding wildlife. Everything out here was wildlife habitat until we started building homes, so that's it.
Mr. George?
Yeah, I did hear a comment about topography from Ms. Top. I guess she's the first word in topography, the first syllable. But she said something about part of the commercial was maybe limited because of an entrance, because of the topography. Did I hear, is that something can get clarified? I think she said that.
20 feet below Morrisville Parkway.
I can make sure we clarify that.
I think that's one thing a comment was made because this was the area that we did the bike ride last Friday on up and across the bridge, and it's massive, both sides, the topography. When you look down, they had to build up that road so high to make the bridge high enough. And I think that was why on the north side they were saying they weren't even sure they could sell it because it wasn't good enough. The visibility would be so below grade. But I did hear something about that maybe the connection might be impacted, or the idea of even doing commercial, and they didn't promise phasing, which brings back the old thing of what's going to happen after the apartments and the townhouses are built and the 17,000 or the 15,000 of commercial and doesn't come. Is that when they come back and say, oh, we can put more apartments there because we can't sell commercial because the topography is off and no one will buy the land? Whereas we got the exact what we wanted on the north side because they said they guaranteed the hotel and they guaranteed that. They said minimum rather than maximum.
Well, they're required to build the commercial in the office unless this council changes that in the future.
They're not required to build it. They didn't phase it. They could be vacant.
Well, or vacant.
That's my point. We may never get it. It's what I'm saying. We may never get it.
That's a fair point.
Compared to the north, which is guaranteed a minimum of that as part of the development. So I think without phasing, then we may never see the commercial at all. And I'm just wondering how that sets with you guys as well.
Well, I think that's something that the applicant can take into consideration. Maybe they want to offer a phasing plan to give us that assurance that we won't be in that situation, because we have been in that situation a lot where they build everything that's easy to market and then they come back and ask for more multifamily. I think that's a good observation.
And then it's 100%
Yeah,
residential instead of 90.
that's right.
In a commercial.
Mr. Yerha?
You know, I concur with everyone's comments, especially yours, Ken, on the phasing. And Don's comment, the only reason I voted for Twyla Road North was because the applicant really convinced me that commercial was not appropriate due to the topography and access. And I know Glenda mentioned that again with Twyla Road South, but I need to be further convinced. So I hope you can come back with some more of that information. And the only other question I have, there was a Green Level Church and Green Hope School Road traffic warrant or lack thereof. Could you tell us a little bit about that, Katie? Again, I wasn't quite sure of what you said about that, because I know citizens have been wanting a traffic signal there.
So your question was about the Green Level Church Road and Green Hope School Road?
Yes.
Right, so the applicant at this location has offered a partial improvement. So they are offering a turn lane at the northbound approach, but they have not committed to a signal warrant analysis.
Okay, it would be nice if they would commit to such a thing, or at least for us to have a little more information on that, because I know that's a dicey intersection, and we've been getting some comments about the need for a signal there.
Other comments? Okay. This is going to go to our Planning and Zoning Board. So if you're new to our process, we're early in the process. We've had a public hearing. There's been a neighborhood meeting and a public hearing. Now this goes to an advisory board, not of elected citizens, but of appointed citizens. And they're going to review this to see if it matches the Cary Community Plan and make a recommendation to the council about whether it matches or it doesn't match Cary Community Plan. And that'll return to us probably in a couple of months or longer. And staff will also have a recommendation. At that time, the council will make a decision. So it's at least a couple of months away. So during that time, you're welcome to come speak at any council meeting. You're also welcome to contact council members or staff members and ask any question you want to ask, and we'll do our very best to get answers to your questions. So please know that we're here to answer the questions. We're evaluating what's proposed just like you are, and we'll have concerns just like you do. And if you have any questions during this process, please don't hesitate to contact us. And Katie Dry, you're the lead on this project, right?
Myself and Erin Puckett.
Okay, so she's the one with all the answers, probably.
No pressure.
I would contact her first.
Call her first.
Thank you, Ms. Dry. Our second public hearing was the Davis Drive Plan Development, which was removed at the beginning of the meeting. It is my understanding, not only was it removed, it's removed indefinitely, and so there's no planned date or time that this may come back, or if it will ever come back.
That's correct. We'll be meeting with the applicants and talking about that, so. And for the benefit of the citizen who spoke, if it does come back, we'll do another mailing, and we'll send notification out and repost the property.
Okay.
So we'll make sure that we provide notification when there's a new public hearing.
Thank you, Ms.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Because, one of the concerns that he raised is that there was no notification that this had gotten pulled. I know we have like a listserv where we send out emails. Is there any way that we can notify, like when we have this in the future, can we send out a quick email blast to everybody and people go, I wasn't going to look at that anyway, but at least maybe we'd have a chance of hitting the people who are interested in coming?
We've been successful with doing that once a case is established, and we've got those email notifications. We only had a handful of people at the neighborhood meeting, so we didn't have a very big turnout. We didn't have a large notification list, but that's, we'll definitely take that into consideration going forward. And we did just get notification from the applicant yesterday.
I know it's an exception.
yeah.
I mean, we don't get
Yeah.
it that often, but I do feel for a person who comes down
Absolutely.
here, kind of arranges his whole night, and then there's nothing.
Okay, we'll move to our third public hearing, and our last public hearing is for Act 8 Land Development Ordinance and Community Appearance Manual Amendments. Assistant Planning Director Deborah Grannon will introduce the item, and we will not take action on this rezoning tonight, or this LDO tonight.
Not really.
But it will be referred to our Planning and Zoning Board, and council will vote on it at a future date. Ms.
Thank
Grannon.
you. Good evening. For your consideration tonight are amendments to Cary's Community Appearance Manual and our Land Development Ordinance. Now that we've adopted the Imagine Cary Community Plan, it's time for us to start looking at how to implement those plan policies so that we can help to foster development with the downtown and destination centers, and we can also help to foster private and public agreements and partnerships. So for your consideration tonight is just a first step with some of these amendments. In looking at the Land Development Ordinance, we're looking at the density, height measurements, and minor modification opportunities. With the Community Appearance Manual, or the CAM, we're looking at some updates that would help introduce new materials and methods of assessing the building aesthetics. And then we're looking at quasi-judicial requirements. So on the topic of density, that's the number of dwelling units that you can put on a piece of property. And in the town center, in the HMXD and MXD districts, we've got specific caps. 50 dwelling units per acre for HMXD and 25 dwelling units per acre for MXD. So Act 8 is proposing to remove those density caps and look at new innovative ways of considering the density. So what is coming in front of us now and what we're seeing in other municipalities is the best planning practice of looking at more of the form of the building, taking things into consideration like the parking, the dimensions of the lot itself, and the building height, to look at the form and the shape. When you look at a building, you can't tell how many dwelling units are in it. You look at an office building, and that's going to have the same impact as a large apartment building. So this is going to allow us to consider market demands and the form and shape of the building rather than some arbitrary number. So removing those density caps just for those 2 zoning districts is proposed. We're also looking at the way we measure the height of a building. As you know, we look at different roof types when we measure the height. So what we're looking at is removing the requirement which exists today to include the top of the parapet as part of the measurement, and rather than measuring to the top of the parapet, measuring to the roof line. Some people call it the roof deck. So what this does is it enables you to look at that flat surface, have some opportunities to activate the roof deck, have some green space, have some community gathering space, and importantly, hide some HVAC equipment.
That'd be
Yeah,
nice.
so keep it looking attractive and not have that, come into the equation. We're also looking at height minor modifications. So right now, today, the planning director can look at minor modifications for things like building setbacks and parking requirements. So we're taking into consideration, why not let the planning director look at that same amount when it comes to the height of a building? Well, that can be pretty scary, so we've put some very strict parameters in place on that. Would be limited to mixed-use buildings, buildings located in destination centers or the town center, and only to buildings that are subject to a development agreement. So it would be a very, very discrete number of buildings that would be eligible for that minor modification. As far as the Community Appearance Manual updates are concerned, in regard to the Principle 1 materials, this would add an opportunity to introduce new materials in addition to what we have today, which is for stone, brick, cast stone, and concrete block. So that's what we have currently in place. It would add the opportunity to introduce new materials like fiber cement materials and metal as options. So you'd still have that high quality masonry material, but this would modernize the Community Appearance Manual a little bit and create some new options. In regard to composition, the update that we're looking at is really more of a clarification. This would enable us to look at a building and take into consideration the entire building facade and allow for some asymmetry and allow for some interest looking at the whole facade, rather than looking at making sure that each segment of a building is balanced and symmetrical. So we're not looking for identical balance, but rather some more visual interest to allow some great-looking buildings like this.
Can I ask a quick question?
Mhm.
Is this where you get into some of the feedback that we've all been giving, like about transparency? You know, you don't need transparency in a drive-through Starbucks, right, where they just end up putting their trash. Is that where that composition
So,
comes in?
no,
or-
this is in regard to the architecture itself. Go back to the picture. So what you see here is a building where you don't have mirror images on each side of the building. You've got a little asymmetry, you've got some visual interest and visual balance, but we're not addressing transparency at this time.
Okay.
So those requirements are still there, but this is just looking at the way the architecture and the way the building is designed. Then the quasi-judicial requirement. So as you know, most development plans that come through, if they're consistent with the ordinance, they can be approved administratively. And then if you exceed certain density thresholds or size limits, then the plan has to go to the Zoning Board of Adjustment for a quasi-judicial public hearing process. Then if you've got certain development projects, you're going to be subject to a developer agreement in some cases. So if a project is eligible for a developer agreement and it's gone through the vetting with staff and has been approved by the town council, Act 8 is proposing to remove the quasi-judicial public hearing process if the project is part of an approved developer agreement. So that's going to eliminate some of the redundancy of having to take a plan back through an extensive process if it's already been vetted carefully. So these are the 4 items that are before you now. There may be others in the future, but these are the ones that we've seen are most pressing to help us with some very exciting development opportunities in downtown. And following the public hearing, I'll be available for your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Grannon. Now's the time for the public hearing for Act 8 Land Development Ordinance and Community Appearance Manual Amendments, and I would invite our first speaker forward. Anyone to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, we close the public hearing, open it up to council members for questions, comments.
I've got a comment. If I can ask you about this appearance manual, I think this came up when we worked together with you on a building that this fiber cement, I think the builder or the architect had proposed fiber cement, but it looked like wood. So the question came up is it was masonry, and it was 75% masonry, but it looked like wood, but it wasn't wood. And the answer was, well, it's an appearance manual, not a materials manual. So if it's an appearance manual and now we're going back to cement fiber, in that picture that you showed, it looked like some wood, like fake wood. Are we allowing now, are we getting back to saying it can look like wood but be made of cement? And then it appears to be wood, and it's in the appearance manual, but the material, you see the
No,
the conflict I've got
that's
here?
a good question, but it would allow the material options.
So it would
right.
allow us to look like wood.
And part of it is the high quality, long lasting durability aspect. Those were important parts of why the CAM was written the way it was. As new materials are introduced and the quality of new materials are introduced and the longevity is improved, that's why we're seeing more builders looking for options, contemporary buildings.
All right, so the goal then, whether it's downtown or wherever it is, the goal would not be if someone wanted it to look like a barn, and serve, whatever food or whatever, make it look like a barn, but it was made out of this fibrous cement material, then that's not that's not a no-no like it used to be, or what's?
Well, we can do some more research on that. You still have a lot of other elements of the CAM that would come into play. You still have the base, the body, the cap. You still have the height to, take into consideration. So there's,
But it gives leeway to have wood-looking materials on buildings for accents, even though they're not wood.
if they are made out of the masonry material or the metal.
It's good to hear. All right.
Okay.
Mr. France.
Go ahead.
Okay. I support all the amendments. I think they all make sense. I mean, density, it's a non-issue. The building is going to dictate how many units are in there, how many square feet of office. So I think in downtown, we've been more concerned with height and look and feel and, creating that sense of place instead of the actual number of units. We're trying to actually create density in downtown. So the height one makes sense. We all want to hide the ugly HVAC units. We also want to provide for rooftop amenities, rooftop dining, that kind of stuff. I think that's really cool. Ken brings up a good question regarding materials. I think we'll learn more about that. But I love the thing about composition where it allows creativity and architects to really do their thing and create that visual interest and allow for maybe some modern touches with some more traditional things. I think that's really cool. Some of my favorite downtowns are the ones that are very eclectic, where you've got the modern and then the traditional and classic and all those things that mix together, that they all don't look like they were built and constructed during the same time, but they just work. And then the quasi one, I mean, if there's a developer agreement in place, everything has been itemized and identified in what we expect and what they're going to deliver. So I don't have a problem eliminating the quasi on that one.
Ms. Robinson?
Okay. With the building height at the deck level, which I totally support, can we add in there a requirement that people start screening their HVAC? Like, is that something that can we go that far to say, you can't just have your big units looking like, what does it look like now? Like a single, double wide or single wide, on top of a building. Can we do anything?
So you're looking at adding a screening requirement even if the parapet hides it?
Yes, so I mean, not count that as the building height, but they still have to do some kind of architectural treatment around it so it doesn't look like a shed or whatever on top of look at the police department. That's the perfect example. I mean, I was on the council when we approved the plans for the police department. Beautiful design, and then they go and stick the HVAC stuff on top.
We do have screening requirements, but we'll look at that. We'll just take that into consideration.
Because the parapet could hide it from ground level, but when you build a building next to it that's taller than the building that you've just built, then the parapet doesn't hide it. So that's where you get into screening the actual.
I look forward to the day when we have that problem.
Well, we're having it, I think. The library is going to be visible from the apartments. The library units will be visible. We already got that.
That's right.
Yeah, and following up on your point, Don, about the materials, the composite materials, I kind of put in the camp of modern art, yay creativity, but you kind of make me nervous. So, I don't know how I'm going to feel about this. I think there's a lot of probably applications where it totally fits what we're hoping for in our community, and I think there's going to be some where it just totally doesn't fit what we wanted, and then we're like, but we allowed it. So.
We've seen it so many times before, though. You can't legislate taste.
I know.
I mean, we had people, what was it, years ago, they built a garage in their front yard, and we didn't have
I know.
It's hard to legislate.
I thought it was ironic that the picture that you showed, Deborah, was of a bank that has a wood siding, because there's a wood bank on Kildare Farm Road, and I think it's so ironic. Would I put my money in that institution? Probably not. I mean,
Burn down.
I probably should have found a better picture. Scott's going to kill me, yeah.
But if it's synthetic wood,
that is so much stronger.
It does. It
it's
won't
durable.
burn. It won't burn the same.
Well, yeah, if it's high quality.
There you go. So anyway, I'm squishy on that one. Everything else I support.
Other comments?
I just have a question on the 15% modification. You had 3 bullets on there. I just want to make sure, I think it was slide 48. Just want to make sure, I think you said all 3 need to apply?
Yes, that is correct.
Not an either or.
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, that's good.
Other questions? All right. This will go to our Planning and Zoning Board for their review and recommendation, and we will see it at a future time. Thank you, Ms. Grant.
Thank you.
We now move to discussion items. Our first discussion item is the Kokobuth Amphitheater Management Plan and Budget. Cultural Arts Manager William Lewis will present this item, and council may take action. Welcome, Mr. Lewis.
Well, thank you. Good evening, council. I am pleased to present the Kokobuth Amphitheater's annual management plan and budget. We will review some of the highlights from the 2019 season, which is just now wrapping up, and will outline plans for the 2020 season and present the facility budget. The 2019 season has been a good one. We are projecting an operating surplus of approximately $135,000, and that surplus is due primarily to more people coming through the gates. We had over 224,000 people come to Cocoa Booth Amphitheater. That is a 21% increase from the 2018 season. And a few of the programming highlights include attendance at our national concerts growing by 104%. We attribute this success to several factors, one of which is good weather. We had no event cancellations due to inclement weather this year, whereas we had 2 cancellations last season. Credit is also due to the successful implementation of the new open promoter model. And you guys discussed this at this meeting this time last year. We feel that the diversity in promoters has improved the diversity of acts, which has helped with the expansion and diversity of the audiences. We will continue this open promoter model in 2020 and look to increase the number of total national concerts from 12 to 15. Rentals grew substantially as well from the previous year, with their attendance up 229%. So we definitely see this as a growing opportunity for the amphitheater, filling in dates between regularly scheduled concerts, events, and festivals. Now, a good example of a new rental that fully utilizes the amphitheater's unique attributes, including its proximity to a greenway, is the Night Nation Run, which is dubbed the world's first running music festival. It is a music-filled road course with live DJs, light shows, bubble zones, neon and black lights. Unlike any other venue in the marketplace, the Cocoa Booth Amphitheater can flex and accommodate perfectly to this type of large, dynamic fusion event. It attracted more than 5,500 participants in its very first year, so management is holding dates for the 2020 Night Nation Run and aims to make it an annual event as well. And as I suspect that gentleman down front with the orange shirt's going to be real happy about it. Another area that experienced significant growth was in our festivals. They were up, attendance was up 13% from the previous year. And in 2020, we will continue hosting a variety of food and beverage festivals like Beer, Bourbon, and Barbecue, and Tacos and Taps, and of course our cultural festivals like Asia Fest featuring the Dragon Boat races, the Oktoberfest, and Diwali. And Diwali, by the way, is the second largest single-day event at the amphitheater outside of July 4th. And this year's event attracted more than 13,000 visitors.
Whoa.
Many of them coming to see these celebrity dancers pictured here, who you may recognize. But 2020 will mark the 20th anniversary of Cary Diwali, and we are meeting with Hum Sub now to begin plans for their special anniversary. One of the largest annual festivals is the North Carolina Chinese Lantern Festival, which set an attendance record in 2019 at more than 103,000 folks. And this event attracts visitors during a time that is typically considered off-season for an outdoor facility like this. So it is a great use for the venue during those late fall and early winter months. Netting over $500,000 in 2019, it is also a great source of revenues. And it's an excellent source of family fun and entertainment that educates visitors about Chinese culture. So recognizing all of this importance, the town of Cary has extended its agreement with the North Carolina Chinese Lantern Festival through 2024.
Well done.
Right.
Cocoa Booth Amphitheater is approaching 20 years of service to the Cary community, and with that longevity and with several 100,000 people coming through the gates comes an aging infrastructure, and immediate improvements are outlined in the staff report with attachment B. But to help us plan for the long term, however, we've hired Venue Solutions Group to perform a full facility condition assessment, and listed on the slide are some of the areas that are covered in that assessment, and it actually took place on October 3rd. We're waiting for those results, and those results are going to help us prepare, among other things, a 20-year capital improvement plan for the facility. Now, due to the complexities of aligning the Cocoa Booth Amphitheater's budget with the town's fiscal year, those details are fully described in the fiscal impact section of your staff report. But in summary, The total budget for the 2020 season is $940,000, and after factoring in funds included in the town's FY 2020 budget, an additional $380,000 in mid-year appropriations is needed to fully fund operations for the season. And so staff is recommending that council approve the ASM Global Management Plan and Budget, approve the Public Works Special Projects requests, and appropriate $380,983 from funds set aside for FY 2020 mid-year appropriations. And with that, I thank you, and I will entertain any questions.
Great report, Mr. Lewis. I just remember over the years, probably before you were born.
Don't let the big hair fool you.
The original purpose was not to make money. It was an amenity, and it had very limited scope. And the council at the time, which I was a part of, said we want to open this venue up not only to all of our citizens, but to the region. And you guys have nailed that, and I think you're doing exactly that. And you're drawing people to this area. You're making Cary's name all over the place because of all the wonderful things you're programming there. And so I just want to commend you and your staff for everything you're doing. And thank you.
Thank you.
For making money is an extra, because most amenities don't make money. And so to have a year where we made money, that's pretty good.
A couple years in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, how many years in a row we've
We skipped last year, I think, and it was.
Last year with the cancellations, it was,
We lost, but we made it the year before.
Okay.
Other comments?
Just a question, and I mention this every year, so I have to do it again.
The screen.
The study we're doing that talks about major systems, would one of the components of that major system possibly be like a jumbotron or something, so where you
Yeah,
can
baby.
see it way back in the crescent?
Maybe.
Good answer.
Yeah.
That is a better answer than I have gotten.
Yeah. I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think now that we're getting much bigger acts, you know, when you have Grammy Award winners like Casey Musgraves and several of the other folks, and you have people coming to this event, they want to be able to see the person on stage. And you just can't do it, not only even from the crescent, from the back. Yeah. And they have a certain expectation that they'll at least be able to see it. And as packed as it was at Casey Musgraves' concert, there were people in the back who were thrilled. By the way, the sound improvements are amazing. They really make a huge difference. You can hear that. You can actually hear them now in the crescent. But it'd be nice to actually hear them and see them. And I would really look forward to what the results of this will be, because I think that you'll be able to get more acts, a wide variety of acts.
Well, I've got a question regarding that. What I recall from the past, there were artists that did not want the Jumbotron. Has that changed over time, or do you know? I mean, that was a surprise to me that some of the bigger acts years ago, one of the conditions was not to have those. We do have some of those ones that can go up. They're not the Jumbotron quality. They wouldn't let us have them. So I don't want to put you on the spot. You're brand new.
No,
but,
I mean, it does happen, and a lot of people don't let you photograph or video, and the Jumbotrons kind of promote that. And so people hold their phones up and they'll record it, and then they'll put it on the internet, and then it opens up a window there. But technology changes. Some people carry their own video screens with them, and they only use their own. But I think it's a point well taken, and we'll obviously investigate that.
And for groups like, let's say, HumSub for Diwali, for the groups that would rent at their own expense and drop $5,000 on a Jumbotron, if we've got one, that might be a possible source of revenue to take some of that, to be able to rent them to use the Jumbotron, because they drop that money every year on the Jumbotron.
Exactly.
Other questions,
Other than that,
comments?
just job well done. I mean, it's been a much better year. The quality of the acts is improving. I would agree with the change in the promoter system that we've utilized. Look forward to bigger and better things to come.
Thank you. I do want to give credit to Taylor Trevisari up there. The GM is here, and so they've done an incredible job out there, for sure.
One thing that I think is interesting to note, and it goes kind of what you said, Ms. Laurie, about, and you, Mayor, about being known. This past week's Oktoberfest, I think, was one of the largest walk-up traffic for ticket sales. When we start to see that trend happening, where you're not just counting on most of it being pre-sales, I think that's just another statement of how people around the region are getting to know us. And even though the day was bad weather, or the threat of bad weather, and actually some of it happened, that over 1,300 people walked up and bought, full price tickets at the last minute. I think that's a real statement to the operation and what's going on out there. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And I do want to thank Mr. Trevisari, and I'm saying his name in public because I screwed it up at the volley.
Yeah, you did.
Want to make sure that you heard me say it correctly just one time. Okay, are we ready for a motion?
I make a motion to adopt the budget as proposed.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's supposed to be
You have to
something
say
specific.
There's several.
Where is it?
Yeah.
Where is it? I move for the approval of ASM Global Management Plan and budget, approval of Public Works Special Projects request, and appropriate $380,983 from funds set aside for fiscal year 2020 mid-year appropriations.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Thank
Keep
you.
up the good work. We now move to our second discussion item, Go Cary Service-Wide Improvements. Transit Administrator Kelly Blasey will present this item, and council may take action. Ms. Blasey, you've been busy.
We have been very busy, yes. I'm happy to be here tonight to discuss the proposed service changes for Go Cary. But first, I would like to say thank you. We were here in January, and we initially brought our proposed service changes then. But after hearing from the public, you recognized that we had some more work to do. And so you asked that we get back out there and that we talk to people and we listen to them and we hear their concerns. And so while the last 9 months have been challenging at times, they have also been extremely rewarding. Staff from all over the town came together, drawing on each other's strengths and discovering a new way to look at things. This was a great thing for the transit group, but it has also made us stronger as a town, enhancing the services that we provide to all of our citizens every day. We've also made new friends as we've met with our riders to gather the feedback that is essential to building a transit system that meets the needs of our community. I'll introduce you to a few of them later in this presentation. So when we were here in January, we had data and technical reasons for our proposed changes, and we showed you maps and graphs, and we talked about our public meetings. But we were missing something: the people that use and rely on this service every day. We adjusted our focus to in-person meetings and on-site visits to assess citizen concerns. In addition to numerous meetings at Town Hall, individual and group meetings were also held on-site at Joshua Tree Court, Highland Village, and Weatherstone Spring. The feedback that we received from these meetings covered 3 main points: the need for improved access to bus stops, including new sidewalks, improvements to routes that provide access to basic needs, and continued access to the Maynard Crossing Shopping Center. So while the data hasn't really changed, the story now has. Meet John and Christy. They live along Route 4. John uses the bus to get to his job at Barnes & Noble, and Christy uses the bus to get to the gym at Maynard Crossing and to sell her artwork at the mall. They spoke at the public hearing in January, expressing concerns about the accessibility of bus stops and sidewalks. We met with them in their community to discuss these concerns, and then we walked with them to the proposed location for the new bus stop. We discovered along the way that the existing sidewalk was not ADA accessible. The existing configuration leads them to walk in the roadway to get across the driveway of the shopping center. Town staff is now working with NCDOT to improve this by creating a more direct pathway. The work will be done before service changes are implemented. Charlotte Greenhour is a resident of Highland Village. She is a strong advocate for her community and making sure that they can maintain their independence. This means easy access to transit and the ability to get to the grocery store, doctor's appointments, lunch with friends, and more. Charlotte was concerned about our initial proposal to stop traveling through the Maynard Crossing Shopping Center. After meeting with the residents of Highland Village and learning more about their concerns, we revised our initial proposal. Riders will still have direct access to the shopping center midday and on the weekends using the Route 4 that they are familiar with. A new Route 4X during busy commute times will allow for on-time connections at the downtown depot. Residents of Weatherstone Spring were worried that the change to the Maynard Loop would mean that they would no longer have access to fresh groceries or to medical offices at Maynard Crossing. This was a common theme during our community discussions. People want better access to all of the great things that Cary has to offer, including healthcare, grocery options, parks and recreation facilities, particularly along portions of Cary Parkway. This feedback, in addition to the many requests that we have received for service along Cary Parkway, resulted in an update to our proposal, a new twice-weekly express service. This service, known as the CPX, will operate 2 days per week to start. It will serve Park West Village, Preston Point and Weatherstone Springs senior living communities, Maynard Crossing Shopping Center, Fresh Market, the Taylor Family YMCA, and UNC Rex Wellness Center. The addition of this service also extends our Tier 1 door-to-door service boundaries, bringing greater access to more people in our community. So when you look at the proposed changes for Go Cary, along with the Holly Springs Express and regional Go Triangle routes, it's easy to see that we are building a network of accessible transit options for our entire community. Once the proposed service changes are implemented, Go Cary fixed route service will be available to 19 of the 23 affordable housing and senior housing communities in the town of Cary. The proposed changes to existing service are budget neutral to the town. Route 7 and the Holly Springs Express service are fully funded through the Wake Transit Plan, and all service modifications to existing service are covered by the existing budget. New bus stops for the expanded and modified routes are also fully funded through Wake Transit. It is our recommendation that Council approve the Go Cary service changes as proposed in the staff report for implementation in 2020. This now concludes the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Blasey. Very good presentation. I think I could summarize my thoughts by saying that when we were here last and I heard all the concerns, I'm like, that's just a huge obstacle to overcome. And then the email I got today kind of summarized where you were, that basically I didn't quite get everything I wanted, but there was a good compromise and I'm very happy. And Ms. Blasey's an amazing person.
That's right.
So
That's right.
that said it all. So thank you so much for getting us from where we were to where we are today. So I think it was a great compromise. I realize that not everybody's dreams will come true, but I think it's a very good plan.
I echo your thoughts because, you know, as you said, what we heard, you know, I think when you grow fast and you have a lot of new people and they come from areas that they've not been treated as well, or they've not dealt with governments as well. You know, I think this is a real testament that we truly, not as a council, but as a staff, listen. And I agree. I said, no, bleep, bleep. I don't know how we're going to get around this one, because there were a lot of real challenges that were brought up that night. And so, you know, I just got to say to the staff, I'm proud of you. I think you did a good job.
Thank you. We had a great team to work with.
I agree. I mean, you turned the process totally around and you rethought how to do this, because it wasn't really on our radar to go out the way that you did, and I really appreciate that you did. I'm sure that you got really excellent feedback and were able to meet the needs better for having done it. So I really appreciate it. And I love that express route that you have running 2 days a week. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, we're really excited about that.
Yeah, that's great. How are you going to publicize that so people know that it's out there and running?
So we are actually getting ready to put an RFP out for some consulting services related to the implementation of the new routes, including an overall marketing plan through Wake Transit. Okay. And so once this is official, we will get to work on that, and we will make sure that it is highly publicized and that everybody is well aware of it before it begins.
That's great. I'd encourage you to bring the YMCA along with you, since it's one of the stops.
Yes.
And they serve a lot of families that have, small financial means. So it'd be very exciting for them to know that this route's going to run twice a week. That's wonderful.
What's neat is that, we've heard since I was a kid, you can't fight City Hall. And I think what we've proven is that in Cary, there's no need to fight City Hall, that City Hall collaborates with our citizens. And I think that's what we need more of. And that's why we are the community that's at the top. And I think that's how we'll stay at the top, is collaborating with the citizens. And it's a great example here.
Thank you.
Other comments?
Just echo everybody else's comments. Job well done to you and your staff. I'm just so proud of you guys.
Thank you.
How about a motion?
Make a motion to approve as recommended.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Blasey.
Thank you.
We now move to our last discussion item 6.3, 19 RZ05. It's the Sears Stone Phase 2 PDD amendment. And Assistant Planning Director Deborah Grannon will give a report. We're going to hear from our Planning Board's recommendation, and we may take action. Ms. Grannon.
Thank you. This is a request to amend a portion of the Sears Stone Plan Development District. The Sears Stone PDD consists of 355 residential multifamily units, 48 cottages, a 96-bed assisted living facility, office, retail, hotel, and associated accessory uses and amenities. And it's divided into different sections or different components: the continuing care retirement community, the village, and then the residential multifamily portion. What's before you for consideration is just an amendment to Phase 2 of the CCRC, the Continuing Care Retirement Community, not the commercial component or the residential multifamily. So this is what's currently allowed today. There's an existing residential multifamily building, and then you can see the other buildings that are not built yet that look like that: an existing clubhouse, an existing healthcare building. This shows you the location of a future healthcare building and the site that was approved for a conservatory. This was the requirement for a minimum of 20,000 square feet, maximum of 30,000 square foot, two-story conservatory building. What's proposed also is that road that bisects the property to be relocated. The applicant's got a new footprint proposed with a new design for the building that would be integrated and help connect the residential buildings to the clubhouse. It's going to introduce new amenities in this residential multifamily building, and instead of that road bisecting through the center of the property, it's going to loop around the outside. And the community gathering space is going to replace one of those building footprints in 3 different locations. And the conservatory requirement is proposed to be removed. So within the new multifamily residential building, the applicant is proposing to introduce new amenities: an auditorium/multi-purpose room that would be a minimum size of 6,500 square feet, a new dining facility that's a minimum of 3,300 square feet, and a cafe with 2,500 square feet. Since the public hearing, you've received a number of emails, as have I. You've heard from citizens at Public Speaks Out. Residents came voicing support for the design. Residents came and spoke to you about the charitable giving and support that Sears Stone provides to the nonprofits, how they use their auditorium and open it up for nonprofit groups. And then you heard from the applicant's attorney explaining the ownership and the funding situation. There's also been a private agreement that was reached with the one citizen resident who came and spoke at the public hearing. He was very concerned about his view and how this new building was going to impact his view. So if you have not already received it, staff has received a copy of the agreement. So he's feeling comfortable now with what's been proposed. And the applicant has added some new zoning conditions. They showed the community gathering spaces in a very high-level proposal when this first came to you at the public hearing. But now they've added some more details with community gathering space number 1. They've specified a minimum size of 35,000 square feet, introduced walking trails, seating areas, a sports court, and enhanced landscaping. one of the big concerns the council and staff had is the lack of green space out here at Searstone. So they've really beefed up the landscaping when you first come into the site so that you can get a much better view as you come into the community. With the landscape area and community gathering space number 2, they've also added additional landscaping to help screen the view along Walkerstone Drive and added a walking trail and minimum number of benches. And then with gathering space number 3, sidewalks and benches. So good bit more green space and probably one of the most important zoning conditions, an irrigation system in all of phase 2, not just for these new community gathering spaces, but for all of the planting areas, as it doesn't exist today. So this is important because we've all seen what happened out there. A lot of the plant material just didn't survive. At the Planning and Zoning Board meeting in August, the board found the request to be consistent with the Imagine Cary plan by a vote of 9-0. And Board Chair Ryan Eads is here to tell you a little bit about the deliberation, and then I'll come back up and give you a recommendation.
Thank you.
It's almost like we can read
Good evening. For this request, the board focused primarily on which would provide the most benefit for the community, a conservatory or the additional community gathering space. Through our research and discussion, we came to the conclusion that the additional green space would definitely provide the most benefit and was also the most practical. We did kick around the issue of parking. One of the things Ms. Grandin mentioned in the staff report was it doesn't appear that there's adequate parking to support a conservatory there today, and we felt like that would potentially result in some issues with the immediate surrounding areas, which we wouldn't see given green space and community gathering space. Because of this, we felt it was consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Questions? Thank you.
So after looking at the Live, Work, and Shape chapters in the Imagine Cary Community Plan and finding that policies were applicable to this request, staff did find that the proposed amendment was consistent and therefore recommended approval. And this concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Grannon. Questions, comments?
I have a quick process question.
Okay.
Normally when we get when we see a planning and zoning board unanimous decision, it goes on consent. Was there a reason that this didn't go on consent?
It was a request that came to have it for discussion.
A request by a council member, a staff member, applicant?
I think it was me.
Thank you, Sean.
Actually, I know it was. Thank you, Deborah.
She wasn't going to tell.
It's a good soldier.
She really tried to hide it.
She's going to die on the sword.
You know, Searstone doesn't feel like consent to me.
Okay. Yeah. We just have a process, and I was just curious to how it didn't follow the process.
Other questions, comments, or are we ready for a motion?
I can certainly make a motion.
Take your time.
But I have, contacted several people, have been contacting me directly and had several discussions. And I think a lot has been cleared up of the history and from before, and I certainly concur that I'd like to move that we approve the statement of consistency as attached to this motion, document for 19 REZ 05, Searstone Phase 2, PDD amendment and rezoning 19 REZ-05, Searstone Phase 2, PDD amendment.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grannon. We have no other business on our agenda. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion.
Second.
And a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
This has been a production of Cary TV. Visit the Town of Cary's website at townofcary.org.